Hey Addicts, welcome back for another movie review. This time we're going to be talking about Bad Boys 3, aka Bad Boys for Life. And I've been a fan of the first two movies. I haven't seen them in a while, but I did very much enjoy them every time I initially saw them and rewatched them. So I was looking forward to seeing the third entry to see if it really tidied things up or if it was just a mess of, a cash grab. So to talk about it, I'm going to talk briefly about the plot in case you don't know. So this centers around a widow slash son of a drug lord getting revenge on the people that sent their husband slash father into prison. And one of them being their targets of revenge is Mike Lowry. So and on the flip side of that, I'm not going to say because they are a bit spoilery, but there are some things that happen that leave Mike going on his own revenge path. And so that's basically the overall gist of the movie. There is some focuses, or I guess maybe some story threads that are inserted there that make it slightly different than a run-of-the-mill generic revenge story. But for the most part, the story beats are pretty streamlined. Now, I will say, even though it does sound a bit bad right now, no pun intended, it is a very solid movie. There are definitely things that elevate it past, or I guess move it past kind of like the more bland or generic plot points. For instance, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, I mean, they've done a lot since Bad Boys and Bad Boys 1, and their acting has gone through the roof. I mean, they've had numerous movies and shows that they've done that have bettered their acting chops. So they really do bring their A game, and this might be the most ranged performance they've done in the series. And so it does elevate those plot points a lot because of those performances just being a lot better than what the writing may initially seem. The one thing, though, that I will say is that the movie does suffer a bit because, with a standard Bad Boys movie, it was kind of the formula of having these two cops, that are buddies that are going to be, facing whatever problem that's in front of them or solving the case. And in this one, it does feel like at times it kind of steers away from that, whether it's from separating those two characters from being together and doing those things that they did do in the past, and also the kind of inclusion of other side or small characters into the plot or into what feels like their space of the story. And it's not bad because, again, those actors and actresses that fulfilled those smaller roles, they do a really good job. I liked all of them in there. There is a couple moments where people might sigh or roll their eyes about a couple of jokes that they give to them. But overall, I did like their performance, and I think their inclusion was in a good way. But I think the thing that really detrimented it for me was seeing less of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together. Not to say that there isn't a good amount of them. It's just that, the movie doesn't really feel like it kicks off into its full swing until the 48 minute mark. And so, that's nearly half the movie. And at that point, it just feels like, you could have gotten a lot more. But again, I do appreciate, the moves that they go into making it a bit different. They're kind of backed into a corner, like most of these movies where they make sequels that are set, years later. Or it's just that, the creativity is kind of gone at that point. But another thing that I think is a really good point to point out is that the action or just the overall vibe of the movie is a bit different. If I'm not mistaken, the first two movies were directed and I think maybe also written by Michael Bay. And so, it was very grandiose in its action and, maybe at times over the top, but that's kind of what made that series what it was. And in this movie, because there is a different director and, possibly different writers at play, you can definitely see that difference of vision or just that difference of, moving into a different direction. There's times that the movie feels like it could have been more grandiose, or at certain points that would have made more sense. They do kind of make up for that, or make it feel a little bit more like the older movies towards the end, or like in the third act, but then it feels like the wrong moment. There's I don't know, it's not necessarily the wrong moment, because the third act's supposed to be like the most explosive part, because it's going to be the ending, that's normally where the climax is. Well, don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've done literature stuff. But I think even though it is a kind of different vibe to it, it's still a good movie, and it's still a good Bad Boys movie. I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's at the cream of the crop in the series. It probably wouldn't be my favorite. I'd have to go back, honestly, and watch the other two, because it's, like I said, it has been a while, and I think, watching those back to back, all three of them, would be like the best way to really judge it in that sense. But I did find myself enjoying the movie. There wasn't really anything that stood out to me as being overly bad, or plot holes, or maybe having like a message that was just overbearing. None of that. It was just a really fun movie, and I think with the talent behind there, and the the actors being back together, it did really help make this the movie that it was. Now, I will say, I will answer this one question, or I guess talk about the fact that, is this the last movie? Will we might see this again? I think they kind of did like what Hollywood has been doing with a lot of movies, and that is leaving it kind of open-ended in a sense, where they give us kind of a closure moment to where this could be the cutoff, or they kind of stuck their foot in the door and like, but there's this other thing that we're going to leave you with that we could touch on later. And I really hope that's maybe a tease for a spin-off series, or something like that, and not so much a another sequel, or a reboot in a sense. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends. If it's kind of like a soft reboot, then maybe. But, overall, yes, this can be the definitive end if you just want to look at Bad Boys as a trilogy, but they do leave stuff open there. So, take that as you will. I don't think it's as bad as some movies have been written, where, they just leave it completely open, or, they have a really silly ending just to, shoehorn a possible sequel, So, but that would be my take. So for my rating, I'm going to give it a worth it. This is, like I said, just a solid film. I think you'll have fun with this movie. You don't necessarily have to turn your brain off to really enjoy this movie either, which I think is a plus. Because even though action movies do have, in a sense, some stuff that you have to suspend belief for, I think it does it in a way that, isn't so overbearing that it's like, okay, this is clearly a flaw, or this is clearly, going to bother me, or take me out of the moment. No, it's just fun. So I would suggest to you guys, if you're a fan of Bad Boys, go see this movie, or, buy it, because I think this movie was solid, and I think it might even be worth the rewatch too. If you guys aren't fans, or you haven't watched the series of Bad Boys, let me know what you guys thought of this movie. Did you like it? Are you gonna go check out the other ones because of it? Or if you are fans of this series, did you think this was a good ending point, or did you just like the movie in general? So with that, I'll leave you to talk in the comments below, and if you want to start a discussion, I'll be here, and maybe others will be there too. But that will do it for today, and as always, peace, addicts.